In a quaint little village nestled between rolling hills and golden fields, there lived a young boy named Thomas. His laughter once filled the air like the melodious song of birds, but since the passing of his beloved mother, the vivacity in his spirit seemed to dim. At 14, he faced a world that was both beautiful and treacherous. He was born with a disability that limited his ability to walk, and that had often marked him as an outsider in the eyes of those around him. Thomas lived in a small, weathered cottage with his father, Michael, a hard-working man whose heart was as soft as the clouds that floated above their village. Michael's hands were rough from toil, but his hugs were warm and full of love, enveloping Thomas in a cocoon of safety. Since the loss of his wife, however, the shadows grew longer in their home, the laughter fading like the light of day. One day, in a desperate attempt to fill the void that had taken root in their lives, Michael introduced a new presence into their home, his new wife, Eliza. This decision, made with hope in Michael's heart, quickly turned their lives upside down. Eliza arrived with a dazzling smile and a charm that could disarm anyone, but Thomas quickly sensed a coldness beneath her polished exterior. The first few weeks went by in a blur of stolen smiles and forced politeness. Eliza paraded through the house like a queen, a whirlwind of exuberance and control. Thomas tried to find his place, but he felt like a wisp of smoke, forever dancing just out of reach of being solid. "Mother would have loved you," Thomas told her one evening, his heart yearning for connection. Eliza merely chuckled. "Oh, sweet Thomas. You know, your mother never knew how to embrace strength when it was right in front of her." Those words dripped with condescension, igniting a flicker of defiance in Thomas's heart. As weeks turned into months, Eliza's true colors began to show. She exhibited a distinct lack of patience for Thomas's condition. One dreary afternoon that made the clouds hang low with sorrow, Eliza confronted him in their cottage. "Why can't you be more like other boys?" she snapped. "If only you would try a bit harder, maybe I wouldn't be so ashamed to have you around." Thomas was taken aback, his heart crumbling at her piercing words. "I'm trying my best, Eliza," he replied softly, but his voice trembled as he fought back tears. "Your best isn't good enough," she snapped back, incensed. "You just sit there while everyone else works. You're a burden." "Thomas!" Michael called from the next room, unaware of the storm brewing. "Can you help me with the, go ahead and save him?" Eliza retorted, unable to contain her disdain. "Maybe one day he will actually be helpful." With that, she turned away, leaving Thomas crushed. The weight of her words clung to him like a heavy cloak. Michael, still oblivious, often turned a blind eye to the tension that simmered in their home, hoping that time would mend their lives. One fateful afternoon after a particularly harsh encounter, Eliza decided to make a point. Fueled by her anger and malice, she wheeled Thomas over to the corral where the large, powerful horse, Thunder, resided. Thunder was a creature known for its untamed spirit, excelling in racing and riding, but Eliza saw an opportunity for humiliation. "If you truly want to be treated like a man, you must face reality," she declared, her voice laced with mock bravado. She positioned Thomas's wheelchair right at the edge of the corral, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. "Let's see if this beast can teach you a lesson." "Please, don't do this," Thomas shouted, panic flooding his voice as he recognized what Eliza intended. He could feel the ground shift beneath him, a tremor of fear coursing through his veins. "Now, Thomas," she taunted, stepping back with an air of superiority. "Face the horse and learn what respect really means." As Thunder approached, its powerful form looming over Thomas, his heart raced with fear. He knew he had nowhere to go, trapped between the fence and the approaching horse. "Stop! Don't do this," he pleaded desperately. But Eliza simply laughed, her cold gaze glinting with malice. "What a shame," she mocked, crossing her arms and waiting for the spectacle with twisted delight. But then, something remarkable happened. Instead of rearing up or charging, Thunder paused in front of Thomas, its large eyes filled not with aggression but curiosity. Drawing a deep breath, Thomas found a flicker of courage within himself. "Come on, buddy," he whispered, his voice barely audible. With that, Thunder lowered its massive head and nuzzled Thomas gently, as if sensing his vulnerability. Eliza's eyes widened, her smug expression faltering. The villagers who had gathered around the corral gasped collectively, taken aback by the unexpected connection between boy and beast. The scene shifted from one of domination to one of companionship, with Thomas as the unexpected victor. How is this possible? Eliza stammered, caught in disbelief as the crowd began to murmur among themselves, exchanging astonished glances. An old man named Alfred, known throughout the village for his gentle wisdom and unfathomable kindness, stepped forward from the crowd. "It appears that this horse understands the strength of character far better than you do, Eliza," he said calmly, looking past her and straight at Thomas. "It's not about physical strength, it's about the strength of the heart." Eliza's jaw clenched. "What do you know?" she spat back, struggling to maintain her composure. "The boy has more bravery in his heart than you'll ever feel in your whole life," Alfred replied, his voice steady and resolute. "You may think you control everything, but love and kindness are what truly shape our world." As the villagers nodded in agreement, Michael rushed to the scene, bewilderment painting his features. When he saw Thomas in the corral, surrounded not by hostility but by care, he felt the realization hit him like a tidal wave. "What happened here?" he asked, fear creeping into his voice as he turned to his wife, searching for an answer. "Nothing happened," Eliza shot back, desperately trying to seize control of the narrative. "He's a weakling. I'm simply trying to teach him a lesson." In that moment, Thomas decided to find his voice. "She put me here to bully me, father. To humiliate me," he cried, the weight of his words carrying the truth he had held back for too long. "I don't want to be bullied. I just want a family who loves me." Michael's heart shattered at his son's words. "Eliza," he exclaimed, turning his anguish-filled gaze towards her, "is that true?" Eliza opened her mouth, but the words caught in her throat. She realized that her grip was slipping, and the villagers were now watching her with disdain. Realizing the tide had turned against her, Eliza exploded. "You don't get to decide what's best for this family. You're not a normal child, you'll always be a burden," she hissed, her voice rising to a fever pitch. But the intensity of the moment, ripe with revelations, shifted the dynamics. "Eliza, you don't know love," Thomas shot back, his voice unwavering. "I may be different, but I deserve to be treated with respect. It's not my disability that makes me a burden, it's your attitude toward me." Michael, compelled by both confusion and righteous anger, stepped between Eliza and Thomas. "You need to leave, Eliza. I can't allow you to hurt my son, even if it means losing you." With fury and betrayal in her eyes, Eliza turned on her heel and stormed away, the sound of her shoes echoing through the gathering. The villagers held their breath, witnessing the fracture of a home, confused emotions filling the space where laughter had once lived. As Eliza disappeared into the distance, the tension began to lift. Slowly, the villagers approached Thomas, admiration and encouragement painted across their faces. "You showed remarkable courage today, lad," one of the villagers said, kneeling before him. "Most wouldn't stand up for themselves the way you did." "I was terrified," Thomas admitted, "but I realized that silence wouldn't protect me anymore." In that moment, the connection formed between Thomas, the villagers, and thunder became a bond that would shape their lives from then on. Each villager offered their support to Michael and Thomas, reinforcing the newfound family among them. As the days turned into weeks, Thomas began to regain his sense of self. He learned to bond with thunder, spending hours at the corral, feeling the gentle nudge of the horse's muzzle against his cheek. The villagers often came to visit, telling stories and sharing their lives. They taught Thomas that true strength resided within his spirit, a truth that couldn't be dulled by the winds of cruelty. One evening, while he was brushing Thunder's menere, Michael approached him, his brow furrowed with thought. "Thomas, I am so proud of you," he said, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "What you did was brave and necessary. We're stronger together now." "Thank you, father," Thomas replied, his heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and newfound strength. "Can we go on adventures together? I want to explore beyond the village." Michael smiled, the warmth returning to his eyes. "Absolutely. You should see what lies beyond that hill." And so, father and son embarked on their first journey together, rolling through fields of flowers that danced with the wind and breathing in the scent of summer blooms. With each passing mile, their bond strengthened, and they grew to understand each other deeply. When they reached the top of the hill, a breathtaking view stretched before them, a panorama that spoke of hope and new beginnings. "Look at the world we have to explore," Michael said, his voice filled with excitement. "I can't believe my eyes," Thomas exclaimed, feeling exhilarated. The wind kissed his cheeks as he looked out over the landscape, and for the first time in a long while, the weight of loneliness seemed to lift. As they traveled through the fields and valleys, they encountered various villagers who had once stayed away from them, afraid of Eliza's influence. But now, they welcomed Thomas back into their hearts with open arms. "Come, join us for a feast," a neighbor called one evening. "We have so much to celebrate." As the moon rose high, they feasted together, laughter echoing through the night air. Thomas shared stories of his adventures with thunder, and the villagers applauded his bravery. He realized that friendships were blossoming, nurtured by the kindness of those around him. In the months that followed, Thomas continued to grow, both in spirit and confidence. He learned to ride thunder, and with every gallop, he felt the world open up before him. The villagers cheered him on, their faith in him igniting the bravery within. "I want to do something special for everyone," Thomas declared one evening, the firelight flickering in his eyes. "How about we host a festival to celebrate our journey?" Excitement bubbled throughout the village as the preparations began for what would come to be known as the Festival of Friendship. The townsfolk joined forces, crafting decorations and preparing delicious food, eager to celebrate their resilience and bonds forged in kindness. As the evening of the festival approached, a palpable sense of community filled the air. Vibrant banners swayed gently, and lanterns lit the night like stars that had lost their way. The village square buzzed with laughter and warmth, and the relationships that had once felt strained became ebullient sparks of camaraderie. Thomas, seated in the center of attention, smiled as villagers gathered around, eager to hear him speak. "Thank you all for being here. This festival is a celebration of friendship, of love, and of our strength through adversity." His voice rang out, clear and bold, but just as the festivities began, amidst the chatter and music, a familiar voice echoed through the square, a voice that once brought torment, now filled with bitterness. "Well, well, if it isn't the little prince with his newfound friends." Eliza's tone dripped with mockery, and the crowd grew eerily silent. Thomas felt the tension return, the familiar weight of dread beginning to settle over him. But as he looked around at the newfound friends united against a shared past, he felt the flicker of courage rekindle within him. "No, Eliza," he declared, surprising even himself. "You can't take this away from me. I've found my place among these people, and I refuse to let you ruin this moment." Eliza's face twisted in fury as she realized she no longer held the power over him she once had. "You think they actually care about you? They're just pitying you," she hissed, venom dripping from her words. "But I don't need pity," Thomas replied, his voice unwavering. "I need genuine connection and love, and that scares you. You stood for control, and I choose freedom. You'll never win that battle." The villagers erupted in cheers, their spirits ignited by Thomas's bold stand. The solidarity filled the air, pushing Eliza further away from any hope of regaining control. With fury and resentment bubbling over, Eliza cast one last look at the boy who had defied her authority. "Mark my words, the world isn't as kind as you think. You'll pay for this disobedience." With that, she stormed away, leaving behind the remnants of her reign, a fading echo of cruelty now overshadowed by laughter, friendship, and newfound courage. In the days that followed, the village thrived under the spirit of community and resilience. The festival became an annual event, a celebration of love and acceptance that drew people from far and wide to experience the joy they had discovered together. Thomas flourished, becoming a beacon of inspiration for others. He learned to navigate life with confidence, not just on his own but by uplifting others who faced challenges. The bonds forged during the festival radiated through the village like sunbeams after a storm, illuminating even the darkest corners. One day, as Thomas helped organize the next festival, he felt a familiar surge of joy wash over him. Amidst laughter and camaraderie, he spotted thunder grazing peacefully in the sun, the bond they had nurtured strong and unyielding. "The world is kinder than I ever imagined," he said quietly to Michael, who stood beside him, pride shining in his eyes. "You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I am so grateful." "We believed in each other, son," Michael replied, wrapping an arm around Thomas's shoulders. Love conquers all, and sometimes it takes the darkest moments to find the brightest light. And so, they continued to share their lives, the villagers embracing diversity and celebrating the beauty that lay within everyone. Thomas learned to embrace his own identity, and with each passing day, he carved a path of hope and possibility, proving that love, friendship, and courage could change the world. Years later, as the village thrived in harmony, the tales of Thomas and Thunder became woven into the fabric of their community. Parents told their children stories of bravery, of standing against cruelty, of the boy who faced a horse and a villain with a heart full of strength. As those stories echoed through the generations, the legacy of Thomas's resilience transformed hearts, nurturing kindness and compassion. The villagers knew that to be strong did not mean to conquer others, but to rise together in love. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm orange hue, Thomas smiled, looking forward to the endless adventures that awaited him in a world where love was the strongest force of all.